If you needed more evidence that politicians are fake and love to put on a show, Representative Eric Swalwell disclosed some insider info regarding Donald Trump and his public persona versus who he was behind the scenes. Let's hear what he had to say.
It's pro wrestling, to be honest. Many of my colleagues are better suited to work at the WWE. And I say that about Gaetz because I've worked with him on marijuana issues. I've worked with him on other issues, especially really before Trumpism took off and he turned into a character. And there were times where he would laugh at himself about how stupid he had to act, to keep, the act going. If you ran into Matt Gaetz or Ted Cruz or Jim Jordan at the Santa Monica Pier, you would say, these are nice guys. Boy, they're nothing like, what I see them do on Twitter or TV. During the impeachment trial in the Senate, Ted Cruz came up to me, like we bumped into each other in the Senate bathroom, and he said, hey, I think you're doing a great job out there. I just want you to know that. And I'm like, what the is this guy talking about? He just scorched me on Fox News like the night before. He tweets at me like every other week. But to him, if you're a pro wrestler, like it doesn't matter that you hit me over the head in the ring with a steel chair. It's all fake, right? You're just doing what the fans want. I don't even know what these guys believe. Like, I really don't. I think they just are giving what they think the fans want, what they think the fans want.
Now, I mentioned Trump. In that clip, he's specifically referring to Gaetz and Ted Cruz, but I think a lot of what he said there also applies to Trump in that, there was really no guiding principles. A lot of the stuff that took place during his administration and a lot of what we see in terms of congressional actions is theater, right? We see a lot of theater. And it's unfortunate because theater has now substituted actual governing, policies, legislating, like all of the things that we really need has been replaced with cults of personality and just acting. Lots of acting, lots of theater, lots of spectacle. And to be quite honest with you, lots of garbage that doesn't really help anyone regardless of what their ideology is.
Yeah, I just appreciate Eric Swalwell for calling it out. This is not the first time he's done this, but just sort of laying it on the table. I think Democrats are often so obsessed with respectability politics, and they're so obsessed, I'm sure many of Swalwell's colleagues, Pelosi, Schumer, they're all greeting, the Ted Cruzes also with the same sort of like, oh, okay, now you too. Oh, nice. But Swalwell's like, no, the democracy is on the line here. There was an insurrection. How are we cool with this suddenly? We are not on the same page. We clearly don't work, or you're not even working for the Constitution. I don't know what you're working for. So it's just interesting to hear someone pull back the curtain on how politics all works. And it's just like, see, there's a lot of chumminess, and we really shouldn't be that chummy. Look, we knew this about Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz used to be far more to the center than he was until Trump came along, and he was like, I'm just gonna ride the Trump train. And you're right about Trump. I mean, it's funny because the very first piece I ever did for Newsbroke on AJ Plus was called "Oops, Fascism," which is just sort of like, oh, I guess suddenly we woke up in the Third Reich, and I was being hyperbolic, but the way that the right wing has so carelessly, in some cases, look, there are legit Nazis, but there are most people who are just like, well, let's touch the third rail. And the third rail is openly taking out the dog whistle and just, calling black people thugs, just openly calling for violence, right? Let's just do that. Let's touch that third rail. Oh, it works for us? Ooh, okay, we can keep on touching this, They keep on getting the treat when they push the button, like whatever, an animal in a testing site. And it's scary. And God, we have it on the media, Anna, so horribly. But more so because in the media, you're like, okay, this is a performance to a certain degree. You can kind of understand it more. But for these politicians, it's almost grosser. It's almost grosser that they don't believe anything that they say.
Right. I mean, I can't. If I had to choose one trait that infuriates me the most. It's that saying something publicly and advocating for something publicly that you don't actually believe in. Doing it for either personal gain or because it's been incentivized through financial means. It's something that I just can't stand by. It's something that immediately, it just disgusts me. I'm repulsed by it, which is why if ever you see me have a knee-jerk reaction toward any media figure and you're wondering where did that come from, just know that I don't just speak out of complete ignorance. Like I pay attention to these things, and I find it problematic when people say things that they don't actually believe. But anyway, pushing that to the side, in regard to Trump though, some people who had worked for him are now coming forward and admitting that they literally hired actors to applaud him or be part of an audience as he was engaging in his presidential run. So this is the public relations organizer of Donald Trump's presidential campaign launch in 2015. And he has reportedly admitted that he paid actors to cheer the new candidate. So Trump's launching his campaign, you see people cheering for him. Turns out that some of those people were literally hired actors. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not me speculating about it. This is based on someone who has come forward and said, yeah, I was the guy. I did the hiring. So here's what David Schwartz said. He's a partner at the public relations firm used by Trump's campaign. He said, quote, "The reality is we hired 50 people, some of whom were part-time actors, I found out later on. That event was really our brainchild. The most famous escalator ride in the history of politics was that one." So he might not have been the person who personally hired these actors, but he worked for the firm who hired the actors specifically to give the American people the illusion that Donald Trump was more popular than he really was at the time. Now, I think that he has like a rabid base right now that follows him and believes in him regardless of what he does. I mean, he can like slice their necks, and as they're bleeding out, they can be like, "I love you so much." Like they don't care what Trump does to them. But to now see that there were hired actors to applaud him as he was announcing his presidential campaign launch is, I guess, not that surprising.
I love that you just described like a slaughter of like a kosher slaughter of a lamb, or a halal.
I love you, Trump. I love you. You can take all my blood.
MAGA halal. No. First of all, we knew, remember early on, like I love that this story resurfaced because early on when that escalator, arrival and the campaign launch even happened, there was whispers of, and there were a couple articles about actors being among them, but no one fessed up to being the company that was hired, etc. And now we have this. And of course, I love PR speak where he's like, that was really our brainchild for fascism. And also we orchestrated the coup on January 6th. Like PR people are so spineless and heartless and cold. They just like want something on their resume. Like, well, I toppled a government and so I appreciate that. We knew they were mostly actors egging them on. Here's the other thing I want to mention. Eric Swalwell in that interview continues on and he talks about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, and I said this on the damage report with John the other day, that like Marjorie and Matt Gaetz are two opposing sides of MAGAism, right? Matt Gaetz doesn't believe a word he says. Marjorie Taylor Greene has absolutely been groomed and duped, and like it 150% buys into the cult of Trumpism. She believes what she says.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so it's amazing that you're like, it feels harmless because on the one hand you're like, well, they don't actually believe it, but the base that they're cultivating does believe that the vaccine puts a microchip in you, does believe there is a dark lord who is like, gonna reinstate Donald Trump in August as president. Like, these folks do believe that. So, and those people are running for office and winning.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And it's scary because these people are scary, first of all, but more importantly, it shows you just how divided the country is, politically speaking, and how difficult it is. I don't know where we go from here, right? Like I think that's the the main question that needs to be addressed. I don't know if there's even a possibility for unity in the country at this point, because our media is set up in a way that incentivizes divisive content and commentary. I mean, look at the videos on YouTube, for instance, or Facebook, or any other platform that tend to go viral, that tend to do well. They're videos that are divisive, that talk about divisive issues. And so that certainly sows division, perpetuates division. You have a political party, the right wing, that has no problem with gaslighting, no problem with literally lying to the American people about something as serious as the efficacy of the coronavirus vaccine, as more and more people are contracting a mutation of the virus, the Delta variant. We have over 600,000 Americans who have already died, but they don't care. They don't care. I mean, when you see how little regard they have for human lives and how they put their own political ambitions ahead of the well-being of their own constituents, how do you work with that? How do you work with that? And then we have this problem of people who used to be incredible journalists, okay? Like Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, completely minimizing the damage that's being done by the right wing in this country and just hyper-focusing on nitpicking everything from the left. Like, how do we win, Francesca? How do we win? Like, everything is working against us right now. And so I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
God, why are you gonna just name all my heroes who've fallen from grace and who I'm like embarrassed I ever liked?
Matt Taibbi was the best, I'm not exaggerating, the #1 financial reporter after the 2008 economic collapse. Just his work was incredibly valuable. Like, to see his fall from grace is like one of the most depressing things in the world. But anyway.
Well, and that's and just to double down, it's not a personality thing. It is about not taking the right wing seriously. And it is also about not being from the communities, the undocumented communities, black and brown communities, women, people whose rights are being stripped because of this pseudo-fascist and the movement that he created, and the next person who will be in office unless Democrats, wise up. But not taking, look, we love to dunk on Democrats. We hate corporate Democrats. That's #1, right? Yes. I mean, not #1, but that is up there. But you can't simultaneously say that and then dismiss the vitriol, the white supremacist hatred, that the anti-science dabbling in sort of, death merchant mongering, like that. You cannot equate those things. And so that is the principled progressivism and leftism that I think TYT brings, that I hope I and Anna brings. But it's not all about Pelosi, okay? Right. Stop giving her superpowers.
No, and by the way, I mean, I have genuine criticisms of Pelosi. They're documented on this show, but maybe spare a thought or two about the very clear disinformation coming from right wingers who very much love this pro-corporate model, who very much love to spread disinformation that literally costs people their lives.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.